Hi there, Jonny here from JonnyLipshamStudios.co.uk and welcome back to the Studio One 3.5 series. And in today's video we're going to look at the brand new feature, which is probably the biggest feature of them all. It's the low latency monitoring system. So we will deal with how it all works, and I'm going to refer you actually to an article on this written by my good friend Jeff Pettit, which is over on the Personas forum, and he deals with pretty much all the top questions that you're going to ask about how it works. So I'll refer you to that article. I'll leave a link to it in the description below so that you can go and read it, and hopefully a combination of this video and Jeff's article and Jonny Gibe's live stream actually, where he covered some of it, will help you understand and get your head around how this all works, so that a lot of the confusion over it is gone and you can just get to setting it up and getting it working in your system. First thing I need to say is that how this works depends upon your computer, your processor, how many cores you have and all of that, and how much RAM you have. It all depends upon all of that, and your interface, what interface you have, as to how it works. It's unique to how it will work will be unique to every individual system. Okay, need to get that out there first. So what works for me and what I show you here that works for me may not work for your system, and you may find that you get CPU spikes, or you may have more latency, or you may have less latency. I don't know. It's going to be specific to your system, and you're going to have to experiment with it and find what works for you. This is something that you can sort of set it and forget it, but there will be times where you may want to adjust it for certain environments, certain recording environments, certain dealing with certain plugins, that kind of stuff. So we'll come on to all of that, because it's how this works with third-party plugins is also very important for you to understand. Okay, so let's look at it a little bit in detail. First of all, I'm going to turn this green Z off. This is new, that you will not have seen before. And that's the indicator that shows that low latency monitoring is switched on. If it's green, it's native low latency. If it's blue, then it will be hardware DSP low latency. So for example, if you have the Personas Studio 192 or the brand new Quantum Thunderbolt interface or something like that, or something, you know, one of those interfaces out there, like one of those Universal Audio Apollo interfaces that has onboard DSP, then your Z here might well be blue as opposed to green. Green is to do with Studio One's native low latency monitoring system. So when it's off, it's black. When it's on, it's green or blue, depending upon which you've got set up, as I said. So let's go take a look at what happens here. So we go to song setup, and then options. And in this section here is what you used to have for your song setup for your audio device and your device block size. This is where it all takes place, and it shows you your input latency and your output latency. This is nothing new. This has been in Studio One since the very beginning, pretty much. What hasn't been and is new is this, the processing tab. And this is where something called dropout protection is now built in to the audio engine of Studio One. So this does not replace the audio engine that came new with Studio One 3.0. It extends it and improves it and enhances it, and just makes it overall, the idea is that it makes it overall work better and more efficiently and use your CPU and your RAM more efficiently. That's the general idea. So here you can change the dropout protection to high, maximum, and you can see here the process block size changes, which is not the same as your device block size. See, that's still saying 256. And then you've got high, medium, low, minimum. Low and minimum pretty much remove the low latency system altogether. And the reason it does that is because the latency is lower than the low latency system. It basically eliminates the need for it when you put it to minimum. So I set mine to high and to a block size of 1024. And here you have your monitoring latencies. So your audio round trip standard would be 89 milliseconds. With the low latency engaged, it's reduced to 25. Instrument, so that would be a MIDI instrument like this one here. I've got the tenor sax patch on the presence instrument. And that ordinarily would be 78 milliseconds, and that is reduced to 25. And you get the green Z on that as well. Now, if I uncheck this, enable low latency monitoring for instruments, it now takes that off, and it's not, the low latency system is not engaged on my instrument. I don't know if you can hear the sound of my fingers on the keys on the keyboard very much through the mic. But there's actually quite a latency there now. When I'm pressing the key down, a few milliseconds later, that 78 milliseconds is quite a lot. But if I engage that now, it's a lot closer to real time. And definitely much more manageable for doing MIDI parts such as drum parts, bass parts, tenor sax parts. So that's very, very cool. Makes a big difference there. So that would work for instrument tracks such as the Presence or the Mai Tai, or any of the other instruments you have, Contact, whatever. It will work with that. Okay, so that's audio processing and MIDI processing and how that all works in there. So here's how it works with audio. If I just enable that track there. So I've created this vocal track, and with the Z on the main here off, you can hear that there is quite a considerable latency. It's actually forcing me to talk slower and slower because I can hear myself so close like that. Now, I can turn the monitoring off, and I'm now just monitoring live through my headphones because my audio box USB is my computer's default device, which means that because I don't have a Windows audio device built into the computer. That was disabled when the computer was built. So basically my audio box USB is my default device. So the mic is always live. So it doesn't actually bother me too much personally, but it might well be very different for you. You may well need this monitoring system on. And if you do, this kind of latency is not going to be manageable. So this is where this makes a massive difference. Now that is much more manageable. At the moment it sounds like it's phasing. The only reason why it's phasing is because you are hearing Studio One monitoring and my live mic at the same time. So that's why it sounds a little bit chorusy and a bit phasey. But essentially, if I didn't have that, if my mic wasn't live like it is, you wouldn't get that phasing. That's unique to my setup. But you would find that you would get much closer latency, which would be perfect for recording audio. So that's how it works fundamentally. And until the next video, bye for now.